How come most startups fail, even when we have more tactics and strategies than ever before? Join the bedside chat of an entrepreneurial couple as they share what it takes to create a business with ease and in flow.
Hey everybody, here's Natasha
and Jachym.
Always 2 seconds too late, and welcome to the Biz in Flow bedside chat. On this podcast, we're going to reflect on our day again and share with you our insights and the inner workings of our brains. And also our relationship, of course, what it's like to really work with your spouse. So far, he's alive and we haven't killed each other yet.
Yeah, she's taken away all the knives.
Well, this is a bedside chat, so I'm pretty sure that it's safe in here. So let's talk about what we've done today.
Yeah, what have you done?
Well, we dived really deeply into the core of our business, right? So at the beginning of today, you pretty much sat down with me and you said, you know what? Let's do what matters. And that is, one of the things is to get in front of you, get in front of an audience, get in front of the people who we can actually help. So that's extremely important. And that requires action. So that was step one that we identified. It's really important for us. And then the second one is to...
Do you remember? I don't.
Well, it's pretty much along the lines of, well, we have to get in front of you, right? We need to earn your attention because that's limited and it's very rare. But at the same time, once we do have your attention or your ears, it's time to give value. It's time to actually give you all that we've got and change your life pretty much. So it's not that we're taking your time or your attention for granted. We want it for a reason and we want to do good with that.
Yeah, that's very correct.
And it's only when we actually give you something great and remarkable and of so much good that we can build this relationship with you. Even if it's a podcast or even if it's just, a post on Facebook, doesn't matter where it happens or how often, but this is the beginning of that relationship and this is what we want to start nurturing.
Yeah, and so today was much more kind of an implementation day. It was less of a brainstorming strategy day. It was about editing the podcast, start uploading them. I haven't done the description yet. You start working on the Instagram. Just getting it all ready so that we can engage with you and we can build that trust with you.
Yeah, him also got a really interesting itch, I would say. You really felt the hunch. You wanted to get in front of people. You wanted to get beyond your comfort zone or the comfortable tasks of the work so far. You want to share a bit about that and where that came from?
Well, I don't know where it came from, but I just felt like it's important to kind of step more into the world and get in front of people, do speaking in front of people, bigger groups, not just 10 people or something like that, talking about 50, 100 people or more. But then I realized as well that the groundwork needs to be done first. So we need to set up everything. We need to set up the systems, the website and all that. That is important. And I felt a bit of an impatience, but it wasn't a frustrated impatience. It was more an excited impatience of wanting to move forward.
I think it's always good to have these, not goals, but a pull towards something really amazing, something great. Just because we're focused on what's here with us right now, what we need to get done right now, doesn't mean that we should ignore the visions we have or the feelings we get, right? Or the hunches that we get. Doesn't mean that we need to act upon it right now straight away, but it's still good to get in touch with that part of you that has that bigger fire, right? It's as if, we're all working towards that. And just because maybe the tools in the toolbox right now doesn't quite meet that, big fire, or meet that kind of presentation, like in front of like a whole stadium of people or thousands of people, doesn't mean that we can't work towards that.
That's very true, yeah. So we can use that fire to build the foundation and to build the traction, so you can do that when the time comes and everything is ready. So I guess it was a good lesson for me to see that, feel that fire, and then realize, yeah, I gotta direct it to the practical tasks that are at hand right now.
Right, because what I found in the past when I tried really hard to meet a certain goal, and it's just a reality that I'm already pedaling as fast as I can, but if I try to go any harder, pretty much the machine will break or I will trip over myself. So that's what I found in the past, where if you're really pushing it in a way that pretty much feels no longer natural or right, then that pushing of the limits almost tips something over, and from that imbalance something goes wrong.
Yeah.
And it feels almost like you're just trying to force things. So I think there is a big balance to have here.
And what did you learn today?
Well, for me, at the very beginning, since we split the tasks and I was doing lots of research for Instagram, so with any channel, we have a feeling that we want to get across to you, and each channel is different. So for those of you who don't know what I'm referring to when I say channel, I mean social media channels. So in the case of today, I was working on Instagram and just looking at the strategy, like how do I want to plan this out? How do I want to space it out? What kind of content do I want to give you? What do I want it to look like? And since we're still kind of waiting on the logos, the finalization of the branding, I was kind of like, just playing with it, because I know that we're just doing the groundwork, right? We want to get the whole account going. We want to start the strategy. But we don't have all the pieces yet in terms of the branding and ultimately what it will look like. So I was just playing with what I do have right now, wasn't really happy with it. And if you've worked in the online space and you're kind of like that solopreneur, then you're doing everything. And sometimes, like today, you get stuck on a certain technology or a certain thing that you're trying to perfect. For me, it was just like a graphic. I was trying to think of how can I make our quotes look super clean and good and just reflective of our personalities and what Biz in Flow really represents. And I was stuck. I was just like playing with all these colors and just flipping back and forth, getting kind of frustrated because it didn't look the way that I wanted to. And I'm no graphic designer or anything like that, so I just do it by intuition. I do it from what I know and what I've tried in the past. So that took a while, and then you came to me and then you saw that I was getting kind of grumpy, so we took a walk, and then you pretty much pointed out to me that it doesn't have to be perfect, and that this is just the first draft, pretty much the first try. I can always change it, and that there is a dialogue going inside my head, and that there is thinking inside my head when I was getting frustrated.
Yeah, I think we as entrepreneurs can get focused on wanting to get things perfect, and that gets us kind of stuck because actions is much more important. Putting ourselves out there is much more important than when we think about the perfection kind of thing. So engaging, because what we're going to put out, it's going to take time to grow the audience and all of that. And so just get started and then improve on the way.
Yeah. And what I realize is that sometimes we, like in Chinese, there's this proverb, and these proverbs usually come in 4 Chinese characters, and it's a really famous proverb that people use quite often, And in Chinese, it's called 画蛇添足, which means you are drawing snakes, and then you add legs. So the story behind this proverb is that, there's two boys and they're asked to draw the best version of your snake, and it's a competition. So they have however many minutes to do that. So they're drawing it, and this one particular boy, he was doing it really well, so he actually finished first. But then he saw that there was still a bit of time left, and then the other boy was still kind of struggling, still painting his snake, and he's like, let me add something to it, I still have time. I'm just gonna add the legs on, and then boom, time's up. And they look at the paintings, and the guy who actually did really well, he looked at his paintings like, why the heck did I add legs onto my snake? Because clearly they don't have legs. And it's as if he freaked out and he just got confused by the competition, and then he added something extra thinking that it would, help and benefit, and it doesn't. So when it comes to design and a lot of tasks within business, I think sticking to what needs to get done and the core, the essence of things is so important, because the moment you start to really get into this strange mode, and I don't really know exactly what mode that is, but just imagine you're that boy in that position, right? You're just trying to do good, but you kind of lose track of what it is that you're actually creating and why, and getting distracted by competition and all of that, and then suddenly you just do more and more and extra, and in the end you just turn out with this thing that no longer actually represents what you wanted to do in the first place. So I kind of found myself, I did not go so far as to add, legs or something totally ridiculous, but I think I was adding too many elements, and I wasn't starting from a place of, okay, what's the simplicity here? How can I do this from the most minimalistic way or style? But I kind of came from that kind of complicated and with many elements, and I think I was just struggling more than I can handle. Mm. And I think this concept of drawing more or doing too much, in my case, it's so simple because I was just, creating graphics. So that was too many elements on the image, too many colors, really simple things like that. But then when you take a look at this concept on a bigger scale, that could mean you're juggling too many tasks, too many roles, things like that. So you can take it in every single way, and I think applies throughout business.
Yeah, it just sometimes you don't have the overview anymore. You go so deep into something, and you think every little thing is important. And we say in German that you don't see the forest because of all the trees, or something like that. It might be the other way around, I don't remember. I think it was that way around. And it's just because you get bogged down with all this stuff, and then it makes sense to kind of step out and actually go back and refocus and see what's actually important.
I think that's also one of the reasons why we work so well when we do take walks and we're out there just in movement, right? In motion. And we're having these so-called strategy meetings, and I think they work so well because of that. We're taken away from the normal environment, right? The space where we usually do the work. Now, this is not to say that, when we are executing on the ideas that we come up with, right? And it's time to get down to business, we're not on our computers, not like we magically get things done just because we're floating around town, just walking around, right? We're hiking. Where we're not supernatural like that. We still have to sit down. We still gotta write our articles out. We still gotta, be on our computer and plugged in too, right? But then when we're having those strategy meetings outdoors, that seems to be the most effective, the easiest environment for that to just come and to flow.
Yeah, I agree. And you said today as well that you got clearer on what we're offering.
Mm-hmm. Well, it seems clearer and clearer every day. It's kind of crazy like that. And I want to draw a parallel here, because I think this is very similar to our own personal growth and journeys, because we can feel like, oh, I know a new part of myself, like I understand myself more deeply, or I understand why that happened and what I learned from it. And then the next day or 1 month later or 1 year later, you get it even more. It's like the lesson is much deeper. And also here, just because we landed on, one target audience or group doesn't mean it's over. I think it's constantly evolving. Sometimes it can be closer and closer to what's true to us, to what ultimately will happen. I'm sure that some pivots will actually maybe take us away from the actual path that we need to go on, right? Where the business will ultimately end up. But I think it's always evolving, and that's really interesting to see how yesterday we thought it was clear, today is even clearer, and it just keeps changing like that. And it's really interesting because sometimes, especially at the beginning of my first business, I thought that I just needed to answer these questions, right? Especially at the beginning of the business, you're like asking yourself all these questions so you can have a starting point, right? Have a starting point, have a place to begin. And I thought that I just needed to answer these questions, and that was it. I didn't actually think that I had to revisit them, or that it was something that was going to come up again and again. I didn't realize I was going to keep evolving with my business either. So that was a shock to me, but I just wanted to warn all of you that this is how it works. It keeps changing every day.
Yeah, I think it's much more useful to see it as a process rather than a thing, and see it more as an experiment. Because when you kind of put a framework of experimentation around it, then you get feedback, you get input, and it's less about you and how you are as a person, whatever. It's more, you just get more information, and based on that information, then you make new decisions, and you may change directions slightly or in a big way. But that's how it kind of works, and so mental flexibility seems to be quite important in this space.
Yeah, and I think this is one of the reasons why people say don't fall in love with your business idea, because you can be so emotionally attached to it. The moment someone criticizes it, or it's time to actually pivot and move from it because it's not going to work, you're like tied and chained down to this idea. It's just an idea, but you're so attached to it, you just can't let go, you can't move on, you can't try something different. And that's tough when you have that kind of relationship and that kind of attachment to your original idea, and you just can't pivot.
Why do you think people become so attached to their idea?
It's almost like romanticizing what should be. I think there's a few layers to it. One is that you're dreaming so much, you have this perfect vision in your mind that in a way you're like, it's happened. Well, but in my mind, like, it's happened, and then say someone takes that or criticizes, and they're bursting that bubble, and you're like, no, but it's true, but only in my mind. But it's true, it's real, I know it's gonna be, right? But it's just only in your head. And I think that at some point, that wishful thinking, that dreaming, like, it's not real, but you just can't tell anymore. And it literally feels like someone's bursting your reality when it's like not even reality yet. So I think that's one. And then another thing is that the ego gets into play. Like, you believe that, like, this idea is good, therefore, like, it's something about me, like, I'm good, right? And then when someone criticizes it or it's time to change, you're like, I don't want to change. Well, hello, like, just change your business idea. It's like, no, but I don't want to, right? So there's then again, like, no difference between you and your business. It's all the same, and then everything becomes personal. And how can you do anything well or have a successful business or be in flow from that point on?
Yeah, it's very true.
I'd say that even though today was a day full of just like executing and getting things done, seemed like there was still a lot of strategic, big bird's eye view kind of things that happened. I'm kind of surprised by this reflection with you right now.
That's true, yeah. I guess it's a combination, because you start executing it and you like become clearer, and then we talk, we take a walk, we kind of have the bird's eye view, and we integrate the kind of more on the in the trenches learnings that we start to have from executing the ideas.
Yeah, and I do want to say that just because you're outside and taking a walk doesn't really mean that that's your strategy session. Because back in the day, in my first business, it sounds like my first business was like total crap, but it's not, but it started out really hard. So that's why I'm kind of revisiting those moments with you. I remember, it's like, oh, time to take a break from work. Let me get out of the house. Let me not be on a computer anymore. I would take a walk in the forest. And boy, was I totally at work. It was worse because I was just walking and my mind was free to run all over the place. And all it did was just keep thinking about a problem that I had that I didn't know the answer to. I couldn't resolve yet. And I would just think about it, worry about it, and then be like, oh my goodness, it's been 20 minutes. I'm not working. I better, go home, get back to work and sit my butt down. Just because, you're taking a nice walk outside doesn't mean it's a real strategy meeting. Plus,
sounds quite stressful.
Yeah, and just because you're thinking about your business and worrying about it and thinking about all the problems doesn't mean that you're making any productive progress either. So I just really wanted to point this out because it's honestly not in what we do, right? This whole podcast is to showcase to you that this is how we do it, is where we're coming from. And
point.
I really want to share that piece with you. Please don't just copy exactly what we do, because that's exactly what a lot of people share. A lot of people teach exactly what they do, and it might not work for you. So
yeah, and you think that the magic is in the how-to and the steps and the strategies and the tactics, but actually the magic is in you.
Yes. So on that note, I think we should go to bed.
Yeah, good night.
So thanks for joining us, everybody. We'll talk to you again tomorrow, hopefully with more to share, but so far it doesn't seem like we have a limited amount to share, at least me.
Yeah, we seem to be doing quite well with the sharing.
Yeah, and I'm sure that's the same for you if you allow yourself to live and then to give, and then I'm sure that you have so much to give to this world. And if you need any help starting your business or just in general become more in flow with what you're building, then just hit us up over at bizinflow.com and just check out our freebies and all the resources that we've got for you. But otherwise, we're here to help you along. But for now, we're gonna go to bed, but you can always find us online, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.
Good night.
Night night.